and welcome. You're watching NewsX Deep Dive and I'm Megha Sharma. As Iran is cut off from the world without internet and blackouts, Iran authorities have set to execute its first protester. The harrowing case of Erfan Soltani is astounding to the global community. He's a 26-year-old man from Fardis in Tehran's Karaj suburb. His story transitioned from a local tragedy to an international flashpoint, serving as a stark illustration of the escalating crisis within Iran. Arrested on 8th of January from Karaj for participation in the nationwide anti-government demonstrations that began in late 2025, Soltani was thrust into a judicial system that bypassed nearly every standard of international due process. Within just 3 days of his arrest, the Iranian judiciary handed down a sentence of death. The charge was muharebe, a term meaning waging war against God. The charge of muharebe is frequently used by Iran to silence dissent. Reportedly, he was tried without any representation. There is no evidence of a formal hearing where he could defend himself. Within 3 days of arrest, his hanging was confirmed and he was scheduled on 14th of January, which is today. Reportedly, on 12th of January, his family was granted a mere 10-minute visitation to say their final goodbyes. The woman on the screen is his mother, who is seeking help of US President Donald Trump to save her son. Reports also say that his licensed lawyer's sister hit legal walls and has been denied case files or representation of Soltani. Iran's revolutionary courts are special tribunals set up after 1979 revolution to try cases the state labels as threats to national security, including protest-related offenses. These courts function without juries, often behind closed doors, and judges wield wide discretion. Access to lawyers can be restricted, hearings may be brief, and confessions obtained during interrogations are frequently relied upon. Erfan Soltani's case highlights these concerns. Arrested during protests, charged with muharebe, and reportedly sentenced to death through a rapid and opaque process, prompting alarm over the absence of due process and fair trial guarantees. Today, Erfan Soltani stands at the center of a geopolitical storm. His name has become a viral symbol of resistance under the hashtag #SaveErfanSoltani. Many netizens are now using the hashtag to convey the message on how to save the man. Listen in to one of those messages on the internet.
Or experimental tactic. This is a tried and true tactic known to the Iranian diaspora, which we've been doing for many, many years and has almost always worked. The way to save his life is to make him famous. I'm going to explain why. The regime commits their atrocities in the dark. When the international community's spotlight is on Iran, it hesitates to act.
What we need is for everyone out there to talk about Erfan to pressure the regime, because Erfan is not just a 26-year-old man. He represents an entire generation in Iran that is refusing to accept a life that is ruled by fear. They are heroes. They are a generation that has watched their future disappear under a dictatorship that jails, tortures, and murders its own people for demanding basic human rights.
As the clock is ticking, the case has become a central pillar of United States foreign policy. US President Donald Trump has issued a stern and public warning to the Iranian regime, stating that any move to carry out the execution will be met with very strong action from the American government. Only yesterday, US President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on trade partners of Iran and urged the Iranians to continue their protests. He said that help is on its way. Upon asking what does help mean, Trump did not clarify. He was cryptic at its best. This diplomatic pressure was echoed across Europe, where several nations summoned Iranian ambassadors to protest what they described as the most violent crackdown on the protesters. All eyes are now on US President Donald Trump and the Iranian regime of Ayatollah Khamenei. If the execution goes ahead, attention will turn to Trump's track record after Venezuela, especially as he has reiterated that military options remain on the table amidst Iran's crackdown on its protesters. Just as the world is concerned about Iran and its arbitrary judiciary, the security-related charges of muharebe is often combined with the which means corruption on earth, and Baghi, which means armed rebellion, have been used to execute countless political and ordinary crime prisoners in the last 46 years. From the bloody decade of 1980s to present day, the courts in Iran have handed down death sentences after trials that have been described as kangaroo courts. In 2024, at least 31 people were executed for security-related charges compared to 39 in 2023, 16 in 2022, 13 in 2021, 15 in 2020 and 9 in 2019. Following the 2022 Women Life Freedom protests sparked by Mahsa Amini's death, Iran executed several protesters after convictions in revolutionary courts. Mohsen Shekari was hanged in December 2022, accused of Moharabe. Days later, Majid Reza Rahnawad was executed for killing of 2 security personnel during protests. In January 2023, Mohammad Mehdi Karami and Sayyid Mohammad Hosseini were executed on charges of corruption on earth linked to clashes with security forces. Rights groups say these men faced rushed trials, forced confessions and denial of fair legal process, using executions as a tool to crush dissent. The world now watches the dawn in Tehran with bated breath, waiting to see if international intervention can halt a sentence that has become a definitive test of global influence over human rights. I'm being joined by Ambassador Manju Seth. Ambassador Seth, unfortunate, deplorable situation on the ground. We're getting to know, as per human rights reports that are informing us, there are 3,000 plus people, protesters who have been killed amidst a heavy crackdown that has been imposed by the Khamenei government. This one man in particular, who is scheduled to be executed by the Iranian regime, has gained international outburst of emotions, condemnation of the dictatorial, authoritarian Khamenei regime. How do you think, and is there a possibility that the man can be saved?
I think, it's going to be very improbable that the Iranian regime will to, international condemnation, because it's not the first time that they have taken these kind of actions, against their people and had many more people killed, and protesters, as you have rightly mentioned this time, the number has really gone up to about 3,000 or more. But I don't think the Iranian regime considers international views or international pressures, because it believes that its system that it is following, its, the law that it has, the Islamic law that it has imposed within the country, is above any other law or other human rights. And this is as you mentioned, the fact that the Moharaba allegation has been put. So I don't think there's any appeal even against that. So I'm not sure that the Iranian regime will at all be, will retract at all. Unless there is one small chance, because some Irani officials and US officials are talking to each other. And President Trump's actions, he has been saying that he will take immediate action if anything is done. And he's and the protest should, they should stop killing the protesters. And if there are any more protesters who are, killed, then there's likely to be US action. But the options for the US to take, direct action are very limited from what I can make out.
Yeah, but also talking about the threats that have been imposed by US President Donald Trump, talking about saying help is on the way. He's gone ahead and said, goaded the protesters to take over the public institutions. A possibility of a military strike. Do you think that is something that is going to be definitely ensued by the US administration with the help of the Israelis?
It seems a little doubtful at the moment, because the last time the strike that took place 6 months ago against Iran, a few months ago, was not welcomed by the other sort of its other partners in the Middle East. So and that has still left a kind of dissatisfaction amongst these countries. So it looks a little difficult, but yes, given President Donald Trump's actions everywhere else, and he carries out his threats mostly either this way or that way. We don't know what exactly he will do, but I feel that the options are limited for President Trump, though he has threatened he might take some other action, which is, there's a lot of talk of regime change going on, but I'm not sure it's going to be so easy in a country like Iran, which has had a certain system in place, a very strong...
But then, such widespread protests, more than 3,000 people that have been killed in a span of about 20 days since the protests started. Again, like I said, global condemnation is very palpable on the ground. How do we safeguard lives of people of Iran?
Yeah, that's a very difficult issue now and difficult question, because yes, we can only put pressure on the Iranian regime, and the negotiations that are going on in the background, if they should hopefully work. And there has been talk of a second rung of leadership who is ready to take on, and maybe they will have a different view after Khamenei. But I think he is not ready to leave office, from what I can make out, unless there is some kind of quid pro quo that is being worked out, and like the last time the JPOCA JEPCOA was signed. This time also, maybe because the Iranian government would like to continue its actions the way it is, and if there is a negotiation taking place, it might like to still maintain its own system, its own record. And I'm not sure that President Trump's actions or threats of action are going to impact decisions of the Iranian government. But
okay.
Yes, wait and see. It is uncertain at the moment.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your views. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.